How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing very well.
Good.
Cool. So let me start. So how would you to just get started, how would you explain Severance to people who haven't seen it yet?
I would say it's a workplace thriller about the life-work balance taken to quite an extreme degree. But that's the elevator pitch. I think what I
Yeah.
actually tell my loved ones is that it's a drama about American ennui and loneliness and what it means to have so much pain that you can't contain it for all of the hours of the day.
Yeah. And then I guess this is kind of something I like to do is what 3 words would you describe Severance season 1? What 3 words would you use to describe it? It's kind of a fun thing I like to do. Yeah.
Mysterious, thrilling, shocking.
Nice. And how would you describe your character, Devon Hale?
I love Devon. I love her like a friend. I think the thing I love most about her is that she's a person who garners intel by listening instead of asking. And so a lot of the moments we see through her vantage point in the season are quiet moments. And it was really fun to find the nuance of someone whose primary experience is happening internally.
Right.
Even though she's a gregarious person and obviously has a sense of humor with her brother, I think she actually tends to get very quiet around the men in her life because she loves them so much. And she's sort of gently leading them through their lives quietly as opposed to in a didactic or loud way. And that I love about her because I actually think she's a much more gentle and patient soul probably than I am.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like about her relationship with her husband.
Yeah.
She's lovely guiding. And kind of what was your favorite part of filming Severance season 1?
Oh man, there were so many highlights. I mean, working with Ben Stiller was a dream. It was everything I could have hoped for. I grew up loving him, and his acuity for world building is next level. I remember watching Escape at Dannemora and thinking,
yeah, oh, that's brilliant.
In my life, I would be happy. And I think it was just the people. I knew how good the story was. I knew what Dan Erickson had created and how special it was. And so getting to work with Adam and Patricia and Michael was a treat. And, we shot it at the height of COVID. And I think because we didn't necessarily have the physical proximity to one another we had to compensate emotionally and psychologically on set. And so that's a special bond. I think only people that shot things during COVID can understand.
Yeah, no, you can kind of hear people's stories. And so what was the casting process like for you for Severance, for being cast as Devon in Severance?
Yeah, I went in and I read, pardon me, it's not an earthquake, I promise, it's my tripod. It's what happens when I talk about the casting process.
Oh yeah.
The sky's open. I went in and read with the casting director, Rachel Tenner, who's a wonderful person. And then when I came in again to read with Ben and Adam, I had beforehand, a friend of mine had called and said, "Oh, you're going in for Dan's show." And I said, "Dan?" She said, "Yeah, Dan." And I didn't realize when I saw Dan's name on the script that we had met years before. I was making a show and he was working on the production side of the same Turner company. And I had loved him then and knew what an incredible soul he was and talented writer. And so getting to walk back in for the final read with Adam and Ben and say, "I know Dan, and now I know that I know Dan." That was really cool and probably my starkest memory during that process.
Very cool. And so I was curious, what was your favorite episode of Severance season 1?
I mean, selfishly, I love the finale. Well, selfishly and not selfishly. I think it's a masterpiece. I think the way that Ben and Dan were able to weave the various hero stories in and out of one another in a way that felt seamless and so compelling was incredible. And selfishly, I loved it because we finally got to see the boiling point Devon's been at through the whole arc of the season come to fruition, to a head. And I think she's been carrying all of this tension for Mark's pain and walking on eggshells around it. And when everything comes to light and she gets to, talk to any Mark, for me, it was such a joy to watch Adam's performance in that scene. The sibling relationship we built together was so special to me and very tender. And so even though I knew what was happening in the scene, getting to watch him And that episode was really special because I just think he's one of the greatest actors we have alive.
Oh yeah, he's both of you are so incredible. That could you talk a little bit about your dynamic as the sibling dynamic you have with Adam?
Yeah. I love Adam. He's such a kind person and incredibly emotionally intelligent. And I think when you have those two in equal measure, it's hard not to connect with the people you're working with if they're open to it. And I'm really close with my own brother. He's my closest friend and the person that's most to me in the world. So it wasn't a far jump to get to a point of, wanting to recreate that sort of care. And I think the great thing about Adam in this role in particular was that we all know him for his lightning sharp wit. I had certainly known him for that and what a skilled comedian he is. But getting to meet him in this really vulnerable and tender place as Mark was extra special because most of our moments together, even the ones that are lighter because of their humor, they're so loving. And getting to explore that and build it and build what it looks like to experience that firsthand love. I feel like most lived in love isn't done loudly. It is expressed loudly. It's expressed in those like micro moments that we have day to day. And for me, the simple things of touching each other's arms and checking in with each other silently at a dinner party that isn't going well were the most important moments for the two of us to build in that relationship.
Oh yeah, and I have to say, I think that some of the most brilliant drama actors are actually comedic actors, in my opinion.
Happy I think that.
No, really, yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely do think, because I think comedy is in some way harder than drama in a lot of ways. So if you can do comedy, you can do drama.
I think you're right about that.
And what are you looking forward to in Severance, for Severance too? Because I know that's going to be coming up eventually.
Yeah, I'm so excited we get to come back and keep telling the story. I think the brilliance of Dan is that he had always been mapping out a multi-season story and one that I think only expands the universe of Lumen and of Severance at large. So as far as Devon is concerned, I'm excited to see what happens now that she has the information she has. Yeah. And she and Mark, for lack of a better term, are in cahoots. So I think there's going to be, I think where Devon related to Mark in the first season through a sort of quiet resolve, I think what we're going to see in season 2 is a bit more toughness, a bit more like actionable tension from her. Yeah. So I'm excited to play with that and see what happens.
Cool. And can you kind of talk a little bit about Devon's relationship with marriage with Rickon and their kind of relationship?
Yeah, Michael Chern is such a brilliant actor and we had a great time. I think what I love so much about their dynamic is that it's a classic opposites attract scenario. I think that Devon helps tether him back to earth. And I think that he helps elevate her a bit to the clouds when she might otherwise be bogged down by her own pragmatism or by her own sense of doom from time to time. I always joke that she's a person who knows too much because she's clocking the behavior of everyone around her. I think she's sort of the keeper of the emotional minutes. Yeah. And as such, sometimes can absorb a little too much of other people's pain. So I think the thing that Rickon allows her is this big, jovial, larger than life thirst for being alive. And they're able to meet halfway on that. And I actually do think there's such a genuine friendship and love between them, even though they're obviously so completely different.
Yeah. And sorry, and what did you think of kind of how Devon kind of her thought of the severance procedure kind of evolves, and like kind of talk a little bit about the scene in the after the birthing, after the in the mm-hmm. I guess cabins, I don't know what you call them, like the birthing cabins.
Totally a birthing cabin. Pretty sure that's what was on the call sheet. Yeah, I think Devon made a decision early on after Mark had the severance procedure to love him without judgment. And because she knows if she allows any judgment to show up, then it will affect the way that she's able to care for him. And she knows she has to care for him because it's just her. It's just the two of them. That they're their family. And I think as the season progresses and she starts to learn more and more, and she meets the senator's wife and begins to realize maybe there's something more nefarious going on, then it becomes more difficult to keep that judgment at bay. And at that point, it's not even judgment. I think it's abject terror because she realizes her brother might actually be in danger. So by the time we get to the finale and she gets the final caseload from Mark, as it were, as to everything that's going on at Lumen. I think she's just like, oh hell no. Oh hell no.
Yeah.
This is not going to work. So that's where we leave her, which is why I'm so excited to pick up again for the second season.
Oh yeah. And so that's, yeah, I think you already talked a little bit about meeting the any Mark and how excited you were by that. And so what are you enjoying kind of exploring science fiction? Because I saw you haven't done a lot of work within science fiction before.
Yeah, I hadn't really. I mean, I worked sort of in the like drama thriller world a little bit more, but nothing that was in this cool nexus. And I mean, I have I think specifically my job in the role of Devon, and this is what's so cool about the show, is that we all inhabit such different worlds. I think the characters that exist primarily in Lumen, the Ennies, they're in such a specific tonal world. And then Michael and I and Outie Mark get to inhabit this different world that is different tonally. And I think that was my favorite thing about getting to see all the pieces come together, because Michael and I are playing characters who aren't severed, who are experiencing the emotional sobriety of having all of their earthly memories, at least the ones they can recall. And I think it's been cool to understand that even though I'm playing someone that is maybe closer to the audience because she's not been severed, she's still existing against a landscape of a world that has this crazy thing. And what does that mean? And how does that inform the way she moves through the world? So that was exciting. And also just the timing. I think the way Ben directed Dan's scripts and the way the show was edited, and the brilliant score by Teddy Shapiro, the timing is at such a crisp clip. That's one thing I think in this genre that I love, from pulling from the Hitchcockian genre,
right,
and psychological dramas, is that things are moving at the heart rate of the audience. That's how it felt for me watching the first season back, and that was really cool.
That's cool. And can you kind of talk about this a little bit, but touch about how this kind of plays around with science fiction thriller, but also a lot of comedic elements, a lot of humor within there as well that you can find.
Yeah, I started in the comedy world, and that's my favorite way to communicate. And so it was cool with both Michael, who clearly is such a gifted and funny comedian, and Adam, to get to pivot between those moments where we were getting to riff a little and find the levity in the world of the show, but then also, pivoting right back to incredibly difficult truths in these relationships. So that was the most exciting, getting to play with primarily these two people, Michael and Adam, and Patricia as well.
Oh yeah.
Good grief. Yeah. I mean, she can do anything. So that was so much fun. And the great thing about having a director, I think, two directors, Aoife McCardle, so wonderful, directed 3 of our episodes. Having directors that you trust is that you trust that they'll sort of move the chess pieces around if you're leaning too far one way. But yeah, and that's the cool thing about Devon and Mark. We got to show up and goof around with each other and let people feel the sort of warmth of a relationship that wasn't scary.
Oh yeah. And who else do you want Devon to kind of interact with in Severance season 2 that you haven't gotten to already?
Well, gosh, I don't know what's going to happen.
No, I'm not asking you that you know her. I'm asking what do you like?
But in my dream worlds, gosh, I mean, I think Trammell is one of the most exciting actors I've ever watched, and I think Milchick is such a fascinating character. I, as a fan, have been completely preoccupied with him.
Oh, yeah.
The first moment I saw one of his episodes and was like, oh, so I think it would be a very funny exchange to see a world in which Devon and Milchick have to communicate, because I don't think they could be more opposite. And I just think
yeah, he's a very brilliant actor. And you kind of talked about what was it like kind of playing around with Patricia's character, Harmony Coble, or as you kind of knew her as Miss Selvig.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Patricia's a great hero of mine. I think that the way that she's able to ground a larger than life character in such like real and basically humane feelings is incredible. And it wasn't difficult to sort of look at her in character with loving and trusting eyes, as Devon does to Selvig, at least at the front end of the season, because that's how I look at Patricia. And it was great. You know, we never did the same take twice. It never felt staged. She's constantly creating new moments and exploring new things. I also was just very grateful to find how warm she is as a person. I had, you know, Devon really has a lot of one-off scenes. I have a lot of scenes with just one other person because I'm never in Newman. So it was Michael, Adam, and Patricia. Really, that was my experience. And all three of those actors are so generous and kind and funny that it was great. It was heavenly. She's heavenly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions. I really appreciate you talking with me.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your day.